5 more 80s hidden gems coming up that you ought to be listening to right now with commentary and interviews from the artists next on Professor of Rock. Hey music junkies, Professor of Rock always here to celebrate the greatest artists and the greatest songs of all time. I'll tell you what, if you are passionate about the greatest music of the rock and roll era, the 50s, the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, make sure that you subscribe right now. Do that below. Hit the bell so you always get our daily features. Also, check out more content at our page on Patreon. Now, it's been a while. It's definitely time for another episode of my favorite 80s hidden gems. 5 seemingly passed over songs from the 1980s that ought to be in more regular rotation in our lives. Now, to clarify, since there's been some confusion in the past, on radio, in playlists, on our streaming apps, and in pop culture, it just seems like we hear the same 50 songs from the 80s over and over again. I like to spotlight songs that, while they were hits in their day, they just don't get their due. These are songs that really deserve rediscovery. So let's get into it. Number 5, Like Flames from new wave band Berlin. Now, best known for their number 1 soundtrack hit from Top Gun, Take My Breath Away, Berlin came onto the scene with their underground hit, The Metro. Love that song.
Riding on the Metro.
We've actually covered it with lead singer Terri Nunn in one of our very first episodes on this channel, Revelations. But Like Flames, it's just a scorcher. Lead singer Terri Nunn demonstrating her vocal prowess and her superior range. I mean, for my money, Terri is the best female belter in the whole new wave genre. This song is just a roundhouse kick to the head. How it wasn't a top 10 hit is beyond my understanding. And then Berlin was set up very well for this song to soar. It was a great song, great hook. Breathtaking vocal. Meaningful message, and it was the follow-up single to their number 1 smash, Take My Breath Away.
Take my breath away.
But the song stalled at number 82 on the Billboard Hot 100. It was actually their last entry on the charts altogether. I just don't get it. Outside America, the song did better. It hit the top 20 in several countries, including Belgium, Finland, the Netherlands, Australia. It was even later covered by Alana Miles. It was produced by Bob Ezrin, the great Bob Ezrin, who gave the album, more of a pop rock guitar sound. Definite change from their new wave roots that clash with longtime fans. The song's chorus is especially impactful, speaking of the loss of social harmony being replaced with just chaos and hostility. Sound familiar? I talked to new wave goddess and lead singer Terri Nunn, who's just beautiful, about the song. Here's what she said about it. I love your voice on that song. It's just incredible. And the music video, tell me about that song.
That was written by our drummer, Rob Brill, and I will tell him you said this. That would mean a lot to him, because that was the only song of his that we ever recorded. And he moved on, obviously, with John to do the Big F for 2 albums. And they did pretty well, but then John just got tired of it. But anyway, Rob wrote it, and it was a bitch of a song to sing. And that's probably one of the reasons that we didn't do it a whole long time. I'm a better singer now, and I don't smoke anymore, so I can do the song a lot easier than I used to. But at the time, I was angry, and John and I hated each other, and we were tired of each other, and we were done with the treadmill and blamed each other for it. And he wasn't to blame. We were kids, and we didn't know to take breaks, to work in balance in life and home life and friends. And the label didn't want us to make balance. They wanted us to keep making them money, because now Berlin's hot. So get out there and do more. And, so it was imploding. And so that song was a song of anger and yelling, and I screamed that song. And trying to recreate it live every night was tough.
Because your voice does things on that song that
I know.
the human voice wasn't meant to do. Number 4, Wait by White Lion. Mainstream hard rock and glam metal started to peak from 87 to the end of the decade, really. Bands just flooded the charts. I mean, Europe with the Final Countdown, there's Bon Jovi with their big singles from Slippery When Wet, going into 87, Whitesnake with Here I Go Again, Motley Crue with Girls, 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 of course, Def Leppard released Hysteria, Guns N' Roses' Appetite for Destruction, on and on. In the middle of all this, a band that was formed in 1983 called White Lion released their sophomore album called Pride. White Lion was fronted by lead singer Mike Tramp and guitar virtuoso Vito Bratta, who many compared to a young Eddie Van Halen. The first single off the album was called Wait. It was released in the summer of 87, but it didn't chart until February of 88. Now, it rose to number 8 on the charts off the strength of its ultra catchy chorus and hair-raising riff. I just loved this song when it came out. I thought the duo of Mike Tramp and Vito Bratta was just a match made in metal. These guys could really rock. The song was a no doubt about it smash that whenever I hear it, even a few seconds of it, I'm humming it for, to myself for hours, which is why I don't know why it's more celebrated. White Lion would release Tell Me, that song next. That went to number 25 on the rock charts, but it stalled at the Hot 100, number 58. It was their third single, though, from the album that was their big peak, When the Children Cry. It's just a powerful ballad with end-of-days imagery, with the hope of a better world after. That went all the way to number 3. When the children cry. And then White Lion just disappeared. Their second album was really good, but it wasn't supported by the label at all, and the band faded away when grunge took over. Still, this is a band that just deserves a thorough listen. I mean, the band played, a 3-night residency at London's Marquee Club, and some claim that the band outperformed Guns N' Roses. They're just sorely underappreciated, especially the undeniable gem, Wait. Number 3, Roni by Bobby Brown. Now take note, from the end of summer 1988 through all of 1989, few if any artists were bigger than Bobby Brown. And he was the king of the New Jack Swing at that moment with the release of his multi-platinum album, Don't Be Cruel, in June of 88. He just quickly became a household name. He had 5 top 10 hits from that album, another top 5 from the Ghostbusters soundtrack, making him one of only a couple of dozen artists in the history of the rock era to do that. It started with the title track, going to number 8 on the Hot 100, went to number 1 on the R&B charts. And then the number 1 pop hit, My Prerogative, which Bobby co-wrote with Aaron Hall and Teddy Riley. And then Roni. Although Roni went to number 3 on the Hot 100 and number 2 on the R&B charts, I don't feel like it got the love that it deserved, over the last few decades. Written by Babyface and Darnell Bristol and produced by the legendary hit makers L.A. Reid and Babyface, it was just a heartfelt pining for Bobby's girlfriend, who he cared for deeply. At least that's what you get from the song. Bobby loves his tenderoni. Now, the Urban Dictionary describes tenderoni as someone at least 2 years younger that you're dating, or what a guy would call a girl that he's dating or really cares about. Of course, originally, tenderoni was an easy-to-make stovetop macaroni product that was sold in the 50s. It was still around in the 80s. The term tenderoni, though, it's an interesting one in popular music. The first known usage of the term as a pet name for a girl was used in the OJ's 1975 song, She's Only a Woman. It was was also used a year later in the Eddie Kendricks 1976 song Sweet Tenderoni. Eddie, of course, one of the lead singers of the original Temptations. Then it was used in Michael Jackson's 1983 hit PYT, Pretty Young Thing. So there's definitely some history there. Here's what Bobby Brown said about the song in a recent interview. Who's Roni?
There was really no Roni. Roni was my daughter. Yeah, my oldest daughter, La Princia. When she was born, that was who that song was for. I know what I sing for, you know, and about. You know, when I pick a record, because I could relate to it.
What do you remember about Roni when you were recording it?
I was out here in Los Angeles, and we was recording at this place in Westlake. It was just little studio that Facing Them always worked out of. And I remember I had a Maxima. It was the first time Maxima had came out. And it was gray. And I just remember just playing it in the car so that when I got to the studio, I was going to just nail it and get up out of there. I was going to try to one take it. And I tried, but, that didn't work. Face is a perfectionist. I am also, but at the same time, Face in LA, their concept is, let's try it again. Let's keep doing it and keep doing it until, you can't do it no more, until you blow your voice out. And I was like, okay, well, let's go ahead and do it. And we worked on that song so much. I remember just flying down the 101 trying to get there because I was running late for the studio. But playing it and singing it in the car and feeling like, my daughter had just been born. So I was just like, I seen her, but I hadn't seen her in a while because I was out here recording. And she was back in Boston and I was missing her. I was missing her so much. So when I got in the studio, I sung it as many times as they wanted me to sing it. And then I ended up remixing it later on down the line because the music for the video was totally different from the recording on the album.
After Roni, Bobby Brown connected with Every Little Step, a New Jack Swing classic that went to number 3 in 1989. And then smashed up the charts with the soundtrack hit On Our Own from Ghostbusters 2. That went all the way to number 2. For ending the 80s with the Quiet Storm Ballad of Rock With You that went top 10. We have the story of this iconic album and all these songs, and we'll be releasing that down the road. Man, New Jack Swing, so great. Number 2, Endless Nights by the late Eddie Money. Man, the Money Man is just finally getting the recognition that he so richly deserves. He sadly passed away from cancer in 2019 after decades of his gritty, one-of-a-kind New York voice and just countless hits. Now, he busted out onto the music scene in the late 70s with 2 Tickets to Paradise, an all-time fixture of classic rock radio. I actually have the story of that on our Vivo channel from Eddie that you can click on below. In the 80s, he kept the flame going with Think I'm in Love. That came out in 82. That went to number 16 on the Hot 100 from his platinum album, No Control.
I think I'm in love.
His next album, Where's the Party, was a miss, as every single stalled outside of the top 40. But Eddie had a big comeback in 86 going into 87 with the album Can't Hold Back. That went platinum on the strength of the iconic 80s smash, Take Me Home Tonight. Which introduced Ronnie Spector to a whole new generation. Went to number 4 on the charts.
Just like what it said.
Then came the number 14 nostalgic, just punch to the gut. I Want to Go Back. This album meant everything to me as a kid. My dad played that tape all the time when we were driving around in the summer and fall of '86. He bought it the first day it came out. My dad was a huge Eddie Money fan. I was raised on him from birth. Can't Hold Back is just one of those albums that bonded us, and it's one that I still know every song in order. And now that my dad's passed away, and Eddie, it just rips my heart out whenever I listen. I remember I was in the grocery store about a year ago with my two little boys, and I Want to Go Back came on over the speakers, and I'll tell you, about 9.5 seconds, I was bawling like a baby. I know you have similar feelings with various artists and songs that you share with your loved ones, and I'd love for you to share some of those memories in the comments. I always think that's fun to read. Anyway, Endless Nights, the third single from the album, that was a number 21 hit in '87. Always a favorite of mine from the LP. It's a hidden gem of the Money Man that just contains that longing, gritty, fierce pleading vocal that is all Eddie Money. He's desperate to win back his lover and get through the lonely, endless nights. With a memorable black and white music video that was directed by David Fincher to boot. The song was written by John Cesario, Michelle Collier, and Steve Mullen, and produced by the great Richie Vizito. I was fortunate, very fortunate, to talk to Eddie Money about this track, and here's what he shared about it. Endless Nights.
Oh, great tune.
I've listened to that song like 900 times over the last...
I do that song live, and I said I want to do a song for all my ladies for the 80s, because the women just love that song. It's just amazing. It was a great video. I think it was a pretty big hit for me in a lot of areas that went to #1. Such a crybaby tune, though, huh? When you gonna call? Yeah. Thing is birthday. It's like pleading, come back to me. I love you so much, you know.
When you gonna call? I think it's worth.
That's the kind of tune that the girls go, my God.
Another great black and white video. Your vocal on that, I think that's why I love it so much. It was just a great
There's
vocal.
no simple reason. Yeah, very pleading.
Oh, yeah.
Very pleading, man. Yeah, it was a great record.
And
I think
then-
Zito did that, didn't he?
He did.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a producer on that record.
He was the biggest producer of the 80s. They gave him producer of the 80s.
Now, before we go into our #1 hidden gem, I want to thank our sponsor, Zenni Eyewear, the glasses I wear to see all things. Go design your own pair and get protection from digital blue light at zenni.com. You're going to love these. They'll actually cost you less than a vinyl. #1, On the Dark Side by John Cafferty and the Beaver Brown Band from the movie Eddie and the Cruisers. This song is just so magical. It's perfectly arranged, masterfully sung, and just hauntingly beautiful.
She'll never know just how I feel.
From a band that most thought was Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band at first listen, the band was formed in Rhode Island in the 70s. They were once called just Beaver Brown, a name that they got apparently from a paint can. The classic lineup consisted of John Cafferty on vocals and guitar, Gary Gramellini on lead guitar, Pat Lupo on bass, Kenny Joe Silva on drums, Bobby Cotoia on keyboards, and Michael Tunes on the sax. They started out as a bar band in Rhode Island, and they built up a following up and down the Northeast Corridor. They actually self-released a single containing 2 of their songs, Wild Summer Nights and Tender Years. It sold 10,000 copies and received radio play down the Atlantic seaboard, but the labels dismissed them across the board, of course, because of comparisons to the aforementioned E Street Band. That is, until Kenny Vance gave them a chance to score the movie soundtrack based on a best-selling novel called Eddie and the Cruisers. The movie actually was slow to perform at the box office. It was actually pulled after 3 weeks. It grossed a bit less than what the film's budget was. And the first single, On the Dark Side, was released, and it stalled at number 64. Didn't do very well like the movie. But then the movie really took off on cable TV and in video rentals. It was actually aired all the time on HBO. That's where I saw it as a kid. And from there, people started buying the album from seeing the movie. And of course, the fan base that the band had so faithfully built bought the album. And it just carried the soundtrack up the charts. It actually went into the Billboard Top 10. The first single was re-released on The Dark Side, rose all the way to number 7 on the Billboard Hot 100, and it was number 1 on the Rock Tracks chart for an amazing 5 weeks. The song was written by Vince DiCola and Ed Fruge, and produced by DiCola, who many 80s kids remember as the master behind the score of the Transformers movie. As a kid, I gotta tell you, this song just hypnotized me into a rock and pop trance. It's like those old cartoons where like a cartoon cat or dog smells a pie and they start floating in the air in a dreamlike state. Those perfect lyrics from Out of the Shadows, she walks like a dream, makes me feel crazy, makes me feel so mean. Ain't nothing gonna save you from a love that's blind. You slip to the dark side across that line on the dark side. In my heart, it's just one of the most haunting pop songs of the era at that time. The piano figure at the beginning, the hand claps after that first chorus, John Cafferty's Springsteen-esque working class droning vocal. It's just so classic. I kind of feel like being on the Eddie and the Cruisers soundtrack was a blessing and a curse for John and the band, because actor Michael Pare was on the cover and it said Eddie and the Cruisers. That image and that band name just kind of stuck. Even as a kid, I imagined them as Eddie and the Cruisers because of the movie and the album cover, and it's just hard for my 8-year-old mind to separate that. They hit number 31 with Tender Years next, and then they hit the top 50 with the Heartland rocker Tough All Over. I love that song. Before performing Hearts on Fire for one of the most iconic montage movie moments of the 80s. So it wasn't all bad. So there you have it. 5 more hidden gems from that wondrous decade, the bliss of the 80s. Leave us a comment about these songs and artists. What other songs should we cover on here? What are some of your memories of these songs? I want to hear your insight. You can hear the songs, all of these, on the YouTube playlist below. Also add them to your playlist. You can check out our 80s store below. We have books and music and shirts that are all handpicked by me. You can trust me, I've got a pretty good t-shirt collection. I invite you to subscribe if you like our content. Check us out on Patreon. Until next time, 3 chords and the truth, my friends. Stay safe out there.